what on earth is happening over at CNN? I have two particular clips that we're going to focus on for the purpose of this conversation, but CNN is going wild, seemingly. Before we get to those clips, as a reminder, undercurrents.tv, that's where you can subscribe to the full premium experience of the show, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. Now, let's take a look at this clip. Where you have Jillian Michaels on CNN's Newsnight show that's hosted by Abby Phillip. You had on the panel Scott Jennings, per usual, Jillian Michaels, Representative Richie Torres, Julie Roginsky, and Eli Honig. This was an exchange about what slavery actually was. Again, this is primetime CNN. Take a look.
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like,
he's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you let's talk about the fact.
Slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
But Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history.
Okay.
In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth.
Okay, now, then Scott Jennings and Julie Roginsky got into a debate about January 6th. This is all happening, by the way, on the 14th, or this is all happening on the 13th of August. So this was happening the Wednesday night show. And then Scott Jennings hits back at Roginsky saying, what are you, like, why are you letting her, to Abby Phillip, why are you letting Roginsky talk to me this way? And then they took it to X right afterwards. So take a look at a slice of this clip.
I guess I'm old enough, Scott, to remember when you were appalled, as the rest of us were, on January 6th, when he wouldn't.
Because January 6th happened, should we not enforce the law today?
Excuse me.
Do you want murders today?
Let me finish, Scott.
January 6th equals no enforcement of mercy. This is a silly argument.
No, let me finish before you make a point about a silly argument.
It'll be silly, but go ahead.
What's silly is you sitting down with Mitch McConnell over Chick-fil-A and lamenting how Donald Trump was putting all of you, including Mitch McConnell, in harm's way. But I guess now you're so...
I wasn't in harm's way. I was in Louisville.
No, your then boss, your friend Mitch McConnell certainly was. But, now...
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want murder solved.
Can I finish?
Just let her finish.
Scott's going to...
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow it.
It's
a stupid argument. I'm not going to allow it.
Scott, just let her finish. I don't even know that we've even heard the argument
yet. No, we heard it. We heard it every day.
You were debating. So go ahead,
Scott, I know you're thirsty for that Senate seat, but let me finish. What I'm going to say...
Again, you allow this every night.
Scott, just give me 1 second here.
Okay, so then Roginsky went on X afterwards, responded to the clip, and said, note, I am someone who doesn't fillet the president nightly for a Senate seat I will never get, which makes me different from you, Scott. So Jennings' fellow panelist there is saying that accusing Jennings, one of the network's obviously star panelists, of giving nightly fellatio to Donald Trump for that Kentucky Senate seat that Jennings is in the running to potentially step in and try to be the nominee for. So I don't even know where to begin with this. It does feel like a 2025 version of Crossfire, the famous CNN show that Jon Stewart basically ended with his famous rant in the face of, I believe it was Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson, saying, you are destroying the country basically because you are engaging in partisan theater. And I think what he meant by that, which is a little bit amusing coming from Jon Stewart, is that you have entertainment and news being mixed in an unhealthy way when Crossfire was under consideration. And it seems to me that CNN is very intentionally going back to that because Abby Phillip's show is now basically the only one that makes headlines. It's basically the only one that makes significant waves because obviously CNN's ratings are struggling, like much of cable, but CNN is particularly struggling. And the Abby Phillip show is basically the one that makes a dent in the political discourse on a fairly regular basis, meaning it makes headlines. Those debates get passed around on social media and all of that. So it seems to me pairing Scott Jennings with other people on these panels and intentionally having conversations. I mean, for example, Abby Phillip and Jillian Michaels going into a debate on slavery and white supremacy. Again, this is primetime CNN. So for that to happen, CNN is making a conscious choice to stir the culture war pot with these panels. And to be honest, I actually think this is going to be maybe an unpopular opinion. I've always thought the Jon Stewart take that was, again, credited with basically ending Crossfire. I've always thought that was sort of counterintuitively a bad take, because when we are engaged in these heated debates between one side or the other in public forums, as ugly as they can be, and as unconstructive it can sometimes be to be engaged in the theatrics instead of the substance, and it's really easy for these debates to go in that direction. When that happens, what you're at least doing is modeling for the public these like very heated and very tense debates that we all should be having instead of shutting down one side or the other. So to the extent that we are going to have these conversations on television, would I prefer to watch a version of like the McLaughlin Group to CNN having a trainer like Jillian Michaels debate slavery with Abby Phillip? Yeah, I personally would prefer that. But it's just not how you get people really to care about the news. And if you provide some entertainment, you are bringing people into the conversation. And to do that, you're necessarily going to have some measure of theatrics. So I'm not saying it's great, but I'm saying it's better than the alternative that came before it, which was shutting out one side of the debate. And I'm also saying it's unrealistic to expect every program to be like the McLaughlin Group. So I guess what it seems to me like CNN is doing is realizing that with all of the budget cuts and the dwindling audience on cable, they're going to start making money increasingly on internet platforms. So Scott Jennings posted this on his X platform. So I don't know what's going to happen with that in the future of CNN. Another really unpopular take I have is that CNN Plus, remember CNN Plus, now a punchline in the business, was a really good idea. It was being executed horribly, but it never should have been canned because Fox Nation has become a foundation, a digital foundation from which Fox News is going to build in their future. They feel really good about it. Just from a pure business perspective, getting people involved on a digital platform as cable numbers dwindle. Fox is still doing pretty well, but it's not going to be like it is now in 10 years. And CNN Plus was supposed to be kind of planning for that future. And instead, it was a complete disaster as it was being built and executed. So they probably could have found a better way to turn CNN Plus around and would maybe be in better shape right now. But this is where it's going, right? Like the medium is the message. These sound bites of arguments over culture war topics. One, I think, again, I'll say it is healthier than what CNN was doing in 2017, 2018, 2019, the Covington Catholic years, acting like one side of the country was not even worthy of having a seat at the table. Bear in mind, Scott Jennings is a fairly moderate, establishment-friendly Republican who comes from Mitch McConnell world. He's had his own ideological evolution that puts him more in line, like with MAGA world, as has happened to many, like average Republican voters, by the way, over the course of the time. So he's probably representative of a lot of suburban Republicans at this point, but he's hardly like Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's who we're talking about being at the table here. It's even with Jillian Michaels, she's not like hardcore Republican. But CNN used to not even give anybody who gave credence to MAGA a seat at the table. There was a time when CNN basically purged all of those people off the network, and that happened in the media overall. Right now, there's a news story about how the Washington Post opinion page is struggling with their decisions to have published Jay Bhattacharya. I mean, of all people, they published an op-ed from Jay Bhattacharya, and people internally at the Washington Post are unhappy with the opinion page doing that because they have that 2017, 2018 mentality. And it's these outlets' own fault for making that the worldview that was governing their decisions for so long. But CNN is getting over that hump and saying, or trying to get over that hump and saying, if we can put on an entertaining politics channel where these debates are actually hashed out, even if it's like WWE style, we can get people to watch. And then, listen, I think the argument from a substantive perspective is that, again, it is better than the alternative. And in the world of television, the alternative is either not letting two people hash it out or a group of people hash it out. And I think they're, by the way, taking some very cynical lessons from the Debate Me Bro podcast world, where Piers Morgan has 10 boxes of people and they're all screaming and shouting at the same time in ways that harken back to some of the low points of cable news. But again, at least people are talking. And when people are talking and arguing, it's more entertaining, meaning more people are going to be engaged, and it's going to feel more acceptable to have these debates that represent the mainstream. And you can hate the right mainstream position. You can say, Tom Cotton, that op-ed about sending in the troops, I hate it, I detest it, I think it is rooted in racism. You can make that argument. But it's much more constructive to make that argument if Tom Cotton's perspective is represented, instead of retracting that op-ed from the paper as the New York Times did back in 2020. It seems like we've moved beyond that. It seems like even CNN has moved beyond that. I think it's cynical. I think it's for ratings, but I still think it's better than the alternative. So there's my take on what the heck is going on over at CNN. It's happening to the media more broadly. It is going to bring back some of those unfortunate hallmarks of the cable news heydays where you got some really ugly discourse. And it doesn't mean that we stop calling these ugly moments. Like, I think Julie Roginsky, who I used to do actually Fox News a little bit with, I think her saying Scott Jennings fillets the president every night is ugly. It's not something I would say to another panelist ever. But that's going to come along with the territory. It doesn't mean we can't say, hey, what are you doing? But it does mean that we're going to get more of it. And I maintain it's better than the alternative. So I think that's what's happening at CNN from a business perspective, and how that business perspective is then going to trickle into the substance and the content of the news that they're doing, at least here on the nightly opinion show. We'll see if that creeps into CNN's daytime coverage and other primetime shows, which continue to be, I mean, honestly, fairly reminiscent of what the network was doing in 2017, 2018, 2019. But maybe they're experimenting with Philip's show. That's my interpretation of all this. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, subscribe over at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. We'll be back with more soon.